Adam, good
Let's
morning.
go.
Good morning. It is Friday morning. I am struggling a little bit this morning, but we are live. I'm excited to talk about punks all the way down the board, man.
Who knew it was punks all the way down, bro? All the way down, bro.
Dude, we got Bitcoin punks, Litecoin punks. Now there's Bitcoin punks I2. There's Doge punks. Dude, we're moving over to Einsteinium punks at some point. What is going on?
Come on, man. Is that right? That can't be right, bro.
I will be excited once we see Vertcoin punks, right? If any of my OG crypto people, man, if you remember Vertcoin in 2017, that was my shit. that was what I was loving. Leonidas, good morning, man. How you feeling?
Good morning. Another week. Lots has happened. Emblem Vault only continues to grow in the spotlight, so I don't feel jealous of your job still. It's like, I thought maybe it felt like it was chilling out, and maybe y'all would get to kind of catch your breath a little, and then of course you guys hey, we're gonna do this big drop. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm not envious of you guys, to be honest. So many people are asking me about Emblem Vault. I don't even work for Emblem. I'm just
Wait, they don't think you're like a silent partner. Actually, secretly, Leo owns Emblem Vault. He's the mastermind behind it.
I mean, Adam, people used to. There was an actual period in August and September of 2021 where there weren't Twitter Spaces, so nobody heard our voices, and they thought that both of us were the same person.
Yeah, that was
dude, not an insignificant amount of people. Maybe 5% of the historical NFT space thought Adam and I were just the same person, shit posting from multiple accounts.
But
early days, man.
But have we ever seen Leonidas and Adam in the room? That's
right. Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah, that's
when I send my stunt double to the conference and take my voice modulator off, I think we'll be able to pull it off.
Leonidas, so you got to tell me, dude, what was this NFT Paris presentation you did? Did you do just a complete punk 6529 where you're just streaming in and presenting? What was this?
Yeah, so basically the NFT Paris folks kind of wanted to try something interesting where they're going to allow anons to, have a platform. So there was maybe a dozen other anons, I believe, that basically, anons didn't really participate in conferences because it's hard to be anon at a conference. Everybody's seen the pics of G Money at NFT NYC with a punk over his face, but it's come on. I don't know. Basically they decided, hey, we're going to invite some people and we're going to set up this live stream kind of platform. So yeah, it was really honestly technically pretty easy. They had a dedicated person work with me. They sent me the link and I'm just talking to them backstage and it's it's your time to shine, Leonidas, head on up there. So yeah, I don't know. A bunch of people, it was cool. There was a packed room, which was cool. People obviously thought it was cool to hear anons, I guess.
Awesome. What'd you talk about? Was it just the history of ETH NFTs?
They pretty much told me I could talk about whatever I wanted. So I was I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes to basically give a somewhat high level overview of the history starting in 2011 up to present day. So tried to run through as much as possible. We could, there's so much to dive into, but it's do you really want to dive into some crazy shit when these people when these people don't know what Namecoin and Counterparty is? You know what I'm saying? So it's just education.
Yeah, man, dude. You should see when I think I've presented now at 4 or 5 conferences on historical NFTs, and I don't go with anything that I've written down. I just speak right off the dome, and after 15 minutes, I'm like, wow, I still have half of this to cover. There's so much into it. You can never fulfill it, man.
It's really hard. It's you have to kind of know your audience, right? And from I think Leo probably chose wisely, right? It's you're just trying to just gently nudge these people to the idea of historical NFTs, right? And so yeah, that's interesting to try and figure out where the balance is. I have one coming up at in Estonia, and but it's an NFT conference, but it's going to be interesting. I'm wondering how I might even prepare almost have two speeches ready. And then if I get the vibe, actually, these guys already know what historical NFTs are, maybe pivot a little bit and go in depth in some area. But it's which area do you pick, man? It's pick your poison. It's a deep rabbit hole, right?
Dude, it's too much. I'll never forget when I first met Adam last year at NFT Miami, there was 2 different historical NFT panels. I was the first one with Max Enfeld and I think Michael.
Kev, right? Oh no, Kev was on mine. Yeah,
and Mike Lee, and you were with Kev and Ken, and Adam opened up the presentation with, "How would you like to turn 25 cents into 100 grand?" And he was 11 puny codes. Everybody in that room literally turned their head immediately, and I was like, "Wow, this guy's a salesman." It was the perfect opening. Oh man, Dogfather, man, good morning, dude. I don't know if you're leading this I2 Punks thing, but I'm seeing some sales this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. What's good? Yeah, that was fun, right? So this was a very spontaneous idea a week ago, talking to a few people, and then this was really set up. And then there was a very helpful dev from the Ordinals.market team, so Alex, so a big shout out to you. And he was basically putting us on the marketplace, kind of like on fast track. And then we have seen a few sales. And the fun thing is, I was predicting 1 week ago that we may have, a fraction of, let's say, 7.5% of the Bitcoin punks, so the first inscriptions. And man, this is almost exactly that floor. And this 7.5%, I was just, I basically eyeballing that based on the V1, V2 punks on Ethereum. So this was great fun this morning.
It's so interesting, right? I give us all credit on this show for launching this idea. Like the idea was raised, like why not the second version? Why not the third? It's just a matter of like who wants to agree on what, right? It's so interesting, and I credit you for following through and creating a little bit of a vibe around it, and actually like getting people interested in this idea of what this is, right? And how we, as collectors or just people in general get to pick what we want to be a part of is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I'm looking this morning. So there's 2 V2 Bitcoin punk. That's weird to even look at for 0.2 ETH and 0.5 ETH. So maybe getting some traction, man. I don't know. There's also a Litecoin punk bundle that just sold for 5.5 ETH. 3 Litecoin punks. I traded myself a punk or Litecoin punk yesterday. So I minted these Litecoin punks. We got to do it for 2.5 ETH or Litecoin because we were the first 50 to join in there. I don't know how we just stumbled across that, but great initial. Minted it for 2.5 ETH. Yesterday, somebody offered me my Litecoin punk number 3 for 25 Litecoin and their Litecoin punk number like 71 or something like that. And I had to think about it for a long time. And this is where you like get caught in this like greed cycle. You're done trading. You're like, holy shit, why didn't I just accept that immediately?
Yeah. I think you got roundly approved for like actually a pretty sweet trade, right? Where you still have exposure and you got, whatever, 10x your initial investment, whatever it was, 2.5 Litecoin. And it's so funny. I was talking to a friend of mine. I had a friend here in town and he just left, but was talking to him about just missed opportunities, right? And it's like, he says because it's just going down the rabbit hole of like the hundreds of missed opportunities, and just add Litecoin punks to the mix, right? Because it's like we got ours for 2.5 Litecoin, which is, I don't know, like $250 or whatever, right? And then they auctioned off like an additional like 43 of the 100 to the community. Like you could bid on them and it was a live bid. And here it was, they were settling at like 5-6 Litecoin, which I don't even know, that's like $600. And here I am like, nah. Why would I do that? And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? The way this works. But at the end, he's like, you know what? Your brain's not built for that, man. Stop thinking yourself. You're not built for that. You're never going to be able to do that. So just enjoy it, man. And I actually started today. Because I have a red-faced or redhead Litecoin punk. And I was like, bro, redheads unite. We got 12 of us. We're the hardest core Litecoin punks in the group. So we'll see where that goes.
And man, Doge punks are coming along. We actually, as Emblem Vault, we can kind of start with us, I guess, because so much traction, man. Where every time I open up the OpenSea counter, the owners are spiking. We're at 9,400 owners now. We're literally, since Ordinals took off, we've gone from 7,000 to 9,424 currently in a matter of 3 weeks. If that doesn't show you what ordinal demand is, man, that's like, to me, that is the biggest metric. Like that's whether they become valuable or not. Like people just want to experiment with these things. It's crazy. But with Litecoin Punks, we successfully did our first private vaulting service where we vaulted, I don't know, what was it, like 90%
almost
of
all. Yeah, it was like 90 ended up, or 90, 95 almost maybe got vaulted, right?
Yeah, we worked through some of the kinks because next week we're vaulting 10,000 potentially. I'll kind of
can't do those by hand. We we kind of custom curated and worked through the kinks of getting that algo down, and so hopefully it's solid now, right? But yeah, you definitely can't do 10K by hand. There's no doubt about that.
You know, it's funny. I watched NFT statistics. I forget what his Twitter handle is. The guy who works for Proof. He does like a daily show about different events, and he covered the Megapunks mint, and he didn't mention Emblem Vault because I think he was like completely confused. What is even happening?
Yeah.
So I'll kind of explain what's happening. They're using it's kind of interesting. Maybe it's more steps. Maybe it's not. It did sell out, which is crazy, and it's traded now. I think like 2,000 ETH in volume in a few days. They're doing an ETH voucher system where they are you mint the Megapunk on ETH, and then this ETH NFT represents the ordinal that you can claim. And I think the reveal's this morning. I think the reveal is like right now or something like that. I think it's like pretty soon. They're doing the reveal today, and then there's gonna be trading until March 6th. And then on March 6th, they're gonna halt all trading. And then whoever owns the ETH NFT has the option to get the ordinal sent on a Bitcoin native wallet or an Emblem vault. And anybody who doesn't sign up for anything is defaulted Emblem vault. So my assumption is it's probably going to default to probably like 80 or 90% of it.
Oh yeah, at least.
And we've built this like,
dude, it's probably, I mean, it might be almost all, you know.
Right. And I'm looking at it now. So there's like, I think it says like 3,500 unique owners. So we can potentially go from 9,500 owners to literally 12 to 15,000. And that would put us literally in like probably the top 10 biggest NFT collections in the space, which is, you know, it's not something to take lightly. And it's something that we talk about. Like it's a huge accomplishment, a huge feat. As Emblem Vault, we have a lot of room to grow. Like that is for sure, right? We came to Emblem Vault. We knew that there's, you know, UX issues, there's UI issues. The technology is great. It's a small team, and you know, over 4 months, I think we've done a pretty good job so far.
Leo's got his hands up. What's up, Leo?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, maybe dive a little bit more into like, are y'all basically offering like kind of a like mass vaulting, you know, as a service solution internally, more or less? Because I've had people ask me about it, and it sounds like it's kind of like this is the first big trial, but maybe, you know, you could scale this up potentially even as a revenue stream. Could you just talk about that a little more? Because honestly, like I've had people say like even doing 100 vaults manually takes like it's just crazy, right? So especially when you're talking about 10,000, it's like holy cow, right? So what's the thoughts around that?
So the thoughts, if you want me to take it, Jake, the thoughts are that absolutely to do it manually is literally it's impossible when you get to any sort of scale. So basically we're building an automated system that, you know, down the road will allow people or enable people to do it themselves. That's the idea. We don't want to be like, you know, we don't want to have people involved in this process. And so we're building that right now. But while we build it, obviously we have to work out the kinks. And so it was nice to do that first one of 100 where we actually got to work through the entire process. And so the 10K will be a first, you know, real big, another nice challenge. And so, but the idea is that, so right now we are doing that kind of as like a one-off white glove service. But eventually we're hoping it's going to be an automated service that people can do, you know, natively, like on our website, basically.
Yeah, and some of the technicals, just to kind of explain it. So basically what's happening is we pre-make the vaults on our side, and we basically airdrop the vaults to all of the different users. So in this case, we're going to airdrop 10,000 pre-created vaults into the person's not minted, the not minted section on emblem.finance. And then the other team sends the asset into the vault, and then they mint it there. And so you're putting the minting cost on the users because the legacy contract is not optimized for gas. It's not, I hate that it's cool it's deployed in 2020, right? But minting on that contract is very expensive. It comes out to probably $10 to $15. So you think like if you go and talk with, like Megapont, if we went and minted it manually for them, it would cost, $150,000. So with this automated system, the system that Shannon built's like pretty cool. Like it's worked pretty well. And you basically just get that asset airdropped to you. And yeah, as Adam said, that's it's a system that we want to roll out to be automated with the curated collections with gas optimization, where the gas I think is like 80% cheaper or something like that. But in terms of the business model, and I'll call it on you, Leo, here in a second, the business model is changing. And it's funny because as a team, right, this Koval token, it's something that when you're in the NFT space, right, you don't want to be related to like a fungible token. There's so many different tokenomics, but it actually might be the thing that saves us, like as royalties go to zero and you see the business model change. So we're actually changing the structure of it. We're actually getting rid of the burn incentive on it, which is, it was a very contentious kind of decision, but we are getting rid of that burn because we realize that if this 10K thing goes really well, you're going to start seeing a lot of 10Ks follow. And if we do burn that token, then the price to mint is going to literally run away from everybody. And so if we're getting, if our new business model is a vaulting service, which we have been, right, but we were focused on royalties at first. If you focus on getting revenue per vault minted, that's kind of like how we're moving to think of things. And be just this underlying tool or this L1, because now we see, ordinals.markets popped up on us, Pepe.wtf, NFT relics, and Pepe.wtf is going to add some additions as well. So we're going to start seeing these like literal ecosystems thriving on top of the L1. So we kind of have changed the model because if we're going to be the provider, we need it to be efficient and we need it to be cost effective for the users as well. Because if you just keep burning stuff and it runs away to $20, $30 a vault, like no one's going to use that service. And so Leo, go ahead.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Like you guys provided just incredibly, just like critical piece of infrastructure in the space. And just, literally even tackling just that layer of infrastructure and then letting an entire ecosystem build on top of the infrastructure. That's a huge value add to the entire space. Yeah. And then I think that the point about the token, this is like the model that we might see projects having to go to. Like, Blur pretty clearly said, hey, we're not going to really do these royalties. And instead we're going to have this Blur token. And that seems to be a very successful model for them. And, literally it could force other marketplaces' hands. And having a token is like, I agree. It's like slightly, confusing to people. Some people think it's controversial, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is if it has real utility, there's real value in the token. And that can be a, successful model going forward. I was curious though, I think we had talked about maybe a week or two ago about just the idea of like, hey, and I actually haven't vaulted an ordinal, so maybe y'all have already done this, but we talked about this idea of, an ordinal already stores basically all the information you would need on chain. So, is there really a need for going to a website, selecting your own image to put in, choosing your own title, writing your own description, all this stuff, when you already have all that data on chain and it's like immutable. So it's like you guys could just pull from that. And vaulting, on Emblem Vault could literally be made as simple as like, you want to vault for your ordinal, here's the address to send to, and then it's done. Yeah. Right? Have you thought about?
You're thinking, Leo, man. You're working it, bro.
Leo's always front running us on this show. This is exactly what we're doing. So Adam and I.
Why are you talking about our features before we release our features, bro?
Adam and I have legit probably taken 20 to 30 calls in the last week of different just ordinal services, everything from the inscription layer to the marketplace layer to the white glove service layer. And so we're trying to partner with different teams and discuss like what this means to simplify that process, right? Like if you could do like a inscription to vault is immediate. And then we're also working on fixing the UI UX after we're getting our API built for just ordinals. That's been like the big issue for us as a small team, right? You can only allocate so much time to different areas. So we actually have brought on 2 developers to work with us to help assist the team, because it's dude, scaling. Dude, it's. I thought we were ready, man, but I've become a full-time Discord, Discord community manager at this point. But the lot of we are circling around like a bunch of different ideas to how to simplify the UI UX. Make sure we get metadata tagging for ordinals and all this different stuff, because the ultimate goal is like we want to get back to curated collections, because that's literally like the kind of like groundbreaking technology that we have. But we can't get there until the ordinal infrastructure is built. It's almost like this like fire that sits in your house and you want to put it out, but then it just keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's also, growing your user base and making your product successful. So it's this like weird equilibrium that we've had to be in to get that going, because also the ordinals infrastructure, as you know, Leo, too, because you host the ordinal show, it's not very big, right? There's not a lot of infrastructure. And then you go down to like Litecoin punks and there's like literally zero infrastructure.
Like there's one dude running the Explorer like off of his laptop, and it's crashing and stuff. And look, man, we have the vision of what this is basically we're an invisible layer that allows trading across blockchains. But to get to be invisible is really hard, right? And so it's like right now we're in the clunky stage. But it's just gonna take time to build this stuff out. But yeah, I mean, we get it. Like, how can I mint an ordinal and immediately have that ordinal available on different chains? Like, that's what we're working for, to be kind of invisible and just facilitate it. That's the idea.
Super exciting, guys. I'm just glad to hear, like, if you guys could get that user experience where it's just literally you can mass vault by just like creating 1,000 addresses to send to, or just vault one by sending an address. And that is the maximum effort required by the user. You guys are going to see like, a collection of 100,000 people.
Bro, literally, are you listening into our meetings, bro? It's like literally, I don't know. Jake was like, congrats guys, we just hit 100,000. And I'm like, dude, that 90,000, 10X, this is going to happen like wicked fast. Like wicked fast, man.
I mean, you guys are doing 80% of the ordinal volume, and clearly there's just still massive pent up demand on the kind of Ethereum side of people who, I do believe like people kind of eventually will, go down the rabbit hole and like play around on the kind of Bitcoin side as well. But
Sure.
it's like, I mean, there's just massive demand on the Ethereum side, and there's going to be this cohort of people that never want to come over. And yeah, I don't know. It's like you guys are in a really interesting position. The whole historical NFT aspect too. It's like, you have this whole kind of other thing going on, and yeah, it'll be really interesting to see, like, if in 6 months from now, y'all have like released curated collections for rare Pepes, and y'all have kind of released this kind of ordinal experience, and you have an ecosystem of people building on top of you for both those kind of services. I mean, what an incredible kind of vision that can kind of come together here pretty quickly. So I'm just excited. I'm glad we're kind of doing this show to get these weekly updates. Everything's just moving so fast. So I'm just happy for you guys.
Thank you, man, dude. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I get to wake up every day and be very thrilled what we do. For a little alpha, actually, when it comes to Pepes, the team had an interesting call with Joe Looney, and they're going to add some very interesting features. Joe's a very smart guy, and some of the stuff that they're going to add into Pepe.wtf when curated collections is launched, because we are working in coordination with them. The things that Joe Looney wants to do is, it's really cool. It's very Bitcoin native too, the kind of functions and stuff that they want to add into it. So it's that's very exciting. And just another stat too, when you think of like Bitcoin NFTs in general, counterparty and ordinal market, Emblem Vault's probably done at least 80% all-time volume of that chain, right? Like it's a crazy stat. And I think I remember Dogfather talked about that in one of the previous episodes of the counterparty volume that exists on Ethereum. And it's interesting to see where that goes, right? That's like a very it's a very interesting product if you're like an OpenSea or a LooksRare or any of these different products, to be like, this is how I get into like Bitcoin NFTs is through ETH. To me, I just see it more as like a financial tooling for the Bitcoin NFT ecosystem, because the Bitcoin NFTs still live on Bitcoin. When you send it into a vault, you're sending it to a Taproot or a legacy Bitcoin wallet. So the assets never leave their native chain, which is very eye-opening for a lot of the like Bitcoin maximalist type people, right? Like if it wasn't, if the counterparty NFTs had left the chain, you wouldn't see people like Joe Looney and them participating in it. They wouldn't be interested. So I always say it's more of like the price exposure exists on Ethereum. And so then you get to like kind of tap into all that like financial tooling and stuff like that. As I move on to kind of past this, did you guys see the Rarible article yesterday? That was pretty cool. I believe it had over 100,000 opens, like clicks. So the people who were tagged at the bottom, I think, picked up a lot of followers. There was a lot of clicks on everybody's name at the bottom. But the interest,
making moves, baby.
Dude, the interest for historical NFTs is like really picking up, actually. Like, I think people are just generally interested in like what this is. It's like we're like that community that just like doesn't go away, right? And the NFT, you know, the PFP community likes to shit on historical NFTs, but we just kind of do our own thing. And it's funny, I put this tweet out the other day that's like, you can tell who's a historical NFT native by how fast they could spin up a website, a Discord, a Twitter account, and a tutorial series. That they always come to us anytime there's something new. We're always the ones on the seat that educate them.
Who knew that new stuff and new technology could actually bring value to historical NFTs? Like, duh. Like, I mean, we've been talking about it forever. While the like HNFTs maxis are like, no, just talk about HNFTs. Like, no. We're talking about the future, because that brings more value. Like, as we create this future, that's what actually brings value to the historical NFTs. And I think we got a nice kick in the pants with ordinals, right? It's like, I mean, half the tweets are like, oh, you like your ordinals? Well, how about the original Bitcoin, you know, NFTs and stuff? And I think that's done wonders for opening, you know, more eyeballs to HNFTs, man, for sure.
Yeah, Rare Pepe is the final boss, man. Once we get Rare Pepes across every blockchain, I see Phantom Scribbler in here who's always just talking about his Pepe bags being so heavy and that he can't offload them. So we're getting there. We're getting there, man. Right? It's a large ass collection, dude. The thing is, like, once we get the Pepe curated collection going, to me, like, just the amount of tokens of 1,774 different tokens with different supplies, that's literally a business model, like, within itself. But I'm also excited that we get the original Pepe artist royalties. From what I'd seen before we posted that the announcement of partnering with Pepe.wtf to partner with them for the verification of the wallets. I believe they had 100 signups, and afterwards I think it went to 1,000 signups between Rare Pepes and Fake Rare. So if that doesn't tell you the amount of demand that these artists want to participate in and be rewarded for their efforts, like, I don't know, it's pretty cool. Leonidas, what's good, bro?
I just wanted to second what y'all were saying about just like the energy around historical NFTs. So I'm just in like, you know, like y'all, like we're in a bunch of these like random Telegram ordinals groups and like random Discord ordinals groups and random like Twitter ordinals groups. And it's like, randomly in conversation, like historical NFTs are constantly getting brought up in just weird ways. And it's like, there was just a conversation about like, what's a V1 versus V2 punk? You know, like, how does counterparty work? Like, how did the Rare Pepes work? And people are like, I really do think this is going to be really interesting for specifically, like, I think the Bitcoin early Bitcoin NFTs. I think there's going to be just a kind of interesting crossover that kind of happens. Like it happens really slowly, but I do think like people will kind of trickle down. It's like, it's only logical if you're collecting, like if you're spending a bunch of money on like a sub 10K inscription on Bitcoin and you're like, hey, Bitcoin NFTs, Bitcoin NFTs, Bitcoin NFTs, I'm going to place a big bet here for a long time. It's like super logical to me to eventually also come to the conclusion that you want to own a Nakamoto card or a FD card or something, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just super excited. And my kind of like really interesting thesis is, you know, the ERC 1155 standard and the ERC 721 standard are just weaved beautifully into like marketplaces on Ethereum. It would be interesting to see if like the wallets and, you know, the marketplaces and stuff for, you know, just all of these like, you know, ordinals, Bitcoin Web3 stuff that's popping up are going to choose to not only like integrate ordinals, but also integrate, you know, counterparty, which I do think of as like the ERC 1155. It accomplishes something slightly different. And now that you can point to an inscription with the ERC, with the counterparty token, it's, to me, that's like, I mean, that's incredibly powerful. You're getting the benefit of the storage layer that people are so excited about, but you're just getting the semi-fungible aspect, which is truly the correct decision for a certain set of use cases. So yeah, I'm like just super excited about, you know, counterparty as well. I think just, yeah, I think you're going to see a nice trickle in, steady trickle in for a long time here into the kind of Pepes and Spells of Genesis and counterparty communities.
It's Pepes all the way down, man. All the way down. Yeah, I love counterparty. It's I have a bunch of Pepes, and also just kind of like the like scattered coins as well. The various like umbrellas and test, and I don't know what else is out there. B keychain, all the different ones. Maybe eventually comes down to Doge. Speaking of Doge, though, I know Dogfather has his hand up as our Doge party specialist, and also Doge party OG back in 2014. We've actually been hit up from people who are doing these. They call it Doginals. It's not necessarily an ordinal. I mean, they're just inscribing, what is it, like 500 or 1500 kilobytes or something like that. That is just like a pixelated image. Joe Looney came out and talked about kind of like what it actually was. It's definitely not an ordinal, but from what I'm hearing, they're really trying to vie for it to get Taproot installed, and or that do SegWit then Taproot. But from my understanding, it's going to take probably months to even, because you have to get that passed with all the miners, and it's merge mined with Litecoins. There's all kinds of scattered stuff in the back end. Dogfather, though, I know he has a lot of information about everything Doge Party and Doginal. So what's good, bro?
Yeah, first I would like to, just talk about one of Leo's tweets to reinforce what he was saying. I mean, after 6 weeks of ordinals, we have more collectors on the ordinals than we have on the whole counterparty ecosystem, right? So 10,000 plus, and that's very conservative. And, you know, they come to marketplaces where they find all these fine ordinals, and then they also see the rare Pepes as another collection on Bitcoin. I mean, it's so natural that you shop around if you see these nice frogs, right? And then, yeah, you see, you know, that's also something special and scarce because they were early, the first one. I mean, it's so natural that you have spillovers to these type of collections. And then the second take on Dogecoin assets, I mean, technically they are not inscribed, right? But who cares? I mean, it is on chain. People will like it, and it's another use case for Dogecoin. I mean, basically what Joe was saying is they use the same exact technology as Doge Party. They just do some, you know, hype marketing and say, now this is new. No, it's not new, right? So this has been used by Doge Party since 2021. But they see it's something like ordinals because ordinals are now flying, but they are not ordinals. It's not like an inscription, like and you cannot put 4 megabyte, you know, stuff on there. So it is. You could say it's like something like a light inscription and something that Doge Party is also doing. And just a small teaser. I'm working on some research piece that will be really interesting. So just to keep it like that.
I love that. I love the research. X Jam Master on YouTube says, "What's the timeline on Pepe's curated launch?" Once we get our ordinal infrastructure in, which I believe the API and stuff will be done, the specific ordinals API I think is done mid next week. Once that is set in place, then we can, you know, provide everything else afterwards, and then it's curated collections right after that. So, been trying to get there, man. It's every time I'm like,
we were literally supposed to launch it like the week ordinals launch, man. It was like just it's crazy.
Every time I'm like, can we get to ordinals? It's like, or every time I'm like, can we get to curated? It's something else pops up with ordinals, right? It was Bitcoin ordinals, then it was the marketplace, then it's Litecoin ordinals, then you have the Doge price. And you're like, God damn it, dude! I just want to launch these fucking frogs. Give them their own collection. It'll come eventually at some point in time. I haven't called on ETH, and I wanted to say first good morning, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say today for our Collectors Corner. For those that are new to the show, ETH hosts a segment every week where he talks about the collecting of something in the real world and how it pertains to historical NFTs, because there is a lot of similarities between the historical NFT community and antique collecting or trading or card collecting or anything of that nature. So I'm excited to hear what you have served us up today, and good morning.
Yo, GM. Yeah, I'm excited as always to talk about these collectings. You know, I feel like I'm up here. You guys spend every waking hour adding so much insight and devoting so much of your time to each NFT community, but also obviously Ordinals and its blossoming community that just seems to be thriving at light speed. And that's kind of what we see, you know, a lot with this and NFTs and crypto in general is we go in these like crazy big cycles and you got to kind of get ahead of the meta. Anyone that's been listening to the show, I think they would have gotten ahead of the meta, just kind of feeling it out. It seems like every week we're talking about something and then the next week it kind of has happened, which is pretty gnarly and going ahead, right? I joke, I'm taking wagers. We'll see which happens first, the Shanghai update or the frog launch on Emblem. But
oh, let's make it a meme.
But yeah, I mean, I think right now is the perfect time. I haven't even filled my bags enough with Pepes. I do love my Spells of Genesis, you can see from my PFP. But yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of time. And then I don't know about a slow trickle as much as it's just when it's in the meta, it's in the meta, and then it erupts, and you just hate yourself for considering and not pulling the trigger before. And then we know how human nature works too, right? Once everyone's talking about Spells of Genesis or Rare Pepes and the volume's insane on Emblem, you're going to just want it that much more.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Oh, looks like we got another I2 Punk sale that just happened recently. Also for the Litecoin Punk, and then I want to hear your Hoarder's Corner if you got something for us today. For the Litecoin inscriptions, I've been having actually a lot of fun dabbling in it. Of course, I've made some money like profiting off of it, but I did an auction for these memes that I had Swooty like mass mint at the time when figured it out. Dude, it was funny when people were minting on Litecoin. I started making these like AI images of lizards. They're called Litecoin lizards. You guys will see that I'm going to do. Adam's got one.
Oh, wait. When do I get my coffee lizard? What do you think about these lizards? I'm like, dude, give me the one with the coffee cup in his hand.
I got 11 of those. When everything was minting, I started making these images and memes and stuff where I was like, all right, I need to find somebody who could like inscribe this because I am way too dumb to figure this out. I will never figure it out. I found Tsuri who was able to inscribe it. And I was like, man, dude, this is what everybody probably had felt during the Bitcoin Ordinal launch. Dude, it's like, so mad I missed it. I'm so mad I missed it, but I have to I had to give for just the diet version of Bitcoin with Litecoin. But going through the experience of it and seeing the infrastructure kind of build and going through, you know, all these like different nuances and complications and stuff, it's actually provided a lot of insight. But I did an auction for 21 out of the 84 of these memes that are in the like 900 inscription range. And 20 out of 21 sold for 0.1337 ETH, which was like 2 Litecoin, something like that. We're trying to keep it very low just for the interest. Seems like there's building interest for it. So I'm interested. I don't know if it's because people missed out on Bitcoin or if they see an opportunity, or some people are just generally interested in Litecoin too. I'm interested to see who the Litecoin whales are, because I know it's definitely not Charlie Lee anymore. He's been on 2017. Oh boy, Leonidas, what's good, bro?
So I just went back into the Adams Discord and was just looking at, because Rodamore came in there back in like July or June and July of 2022, and I was just like, you know, ETH was kind of patting just the historical NFT space on the back for just being a little bit early on this one. And I just wanted to like read just like a little bit. Like Killa says in June of 2022, talking to Rodamore, yeah, love the idea. And I think a lot of maxis will be super into it as well. Could be a nice onboarding vector for folks who haven't gotten the NFT bug just yet. Rodamore,
holy shit, that's crazy, dude. Can you copy that? Make a tweet? Holy cow, bro. Kill it.
Yeah. Rodamore says, that's my view too. I think there are a lot of cool NFTs, especially generative art, but because they're not on Bitcoin, Bitcoiners often dismiss the whole space. If there are NFTs on base chain Bitcoin, i.e. no token or sidechain, then Bitcoiners will likely be more open-minded. And there's just a ton of conversations like this. I don't know. I think it's cool that, the historical NFT scene, just like we kind of keep our, ears, like we're basically just trying to pay attention to like, just like weird, interesting shit that's going on. I think like just as collectors, that's like kind of part of how we think. It's like our mindset. So yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to, let's
pat ourselves on the back. We made this happen. Let's just say it. We made it happen.
Adam, you might as well be the co-founder of Ordinals.
Adam is
I
Rotomar.
will not be dancing on TikTok. I tell you that right now. That will not happen. But I will wear my Ordinal shirt, bro. So besides that,
dude, Adam is first to printing out the shirt. I swear to God, this guy mints something or registers something on a blockchain and then orders a shirt like 3 seconds later. This guy's got like a million crypto shirts from the different
shirt guy. I got my shirt guy.
But the funny thing is, and to add on kind of what Leo was talking about, what brought us in actually had nothing to do with the inscriptions. It was actually the early SAT tracking. Yep. And I'm curious, like, what is going on with that? I saw Leo had posted, somebody had gifted you a SAT that was created like 5 days after the Genesis block or something like that. Is there now attention diverting to the early SATs because now the inscription's over 250,000? So it's like the sub 10K club, which I saw pop up. You guys had a spaces with that. There's a sub 10K ordinal club, right? They're taking like the ENS kind of idea. Now it's interesting to see like people who are getting to ordinals. Are you now looking for a unique project? Are you looking for art, right? Because the early numbers, it's pretty much game over. I thought it would be early sats. I mean, that I'm mostly interested in that. I have no idea how to even figure it out, but I know Leo was gifted one. So can you give us an update on like what's going on with like the early sats? Because that's what brought us in originally.
Yeah. So here's how I like kind of think about the market currently. So on the base layer is like the actual art and the founder and the artist and like all of the things you kind of assume that matter when you're collecting, right? It's like, what you would mostly want in an NFT. And then there's this other layer when you peel it back of the inscription number. And that matters a lot in the market. And we're starting to see this third layer matter a bit more, which is how old is the SAT that's being inscribed on? Okay. So if it's like, if you can combine all three of those things, I think you hit like a really interesting kind of jackpot. So like people are looking for, maybe a sub 100K or sub 10K SAT from maybe an artist that did something interesting and it's on the super old SAT. So it's an inscription on an old SAT. Like that's a really interesting combo. And even if you weren't an early inscription, you can basically get some like street cred by going and like either buying from one of these people who's like sifting with these scripts for these old SATs by just inscribing your art onto one of them. And like, again, you're getting that kind of OG street cred where, yeah, maybe you're going to be like sub 1 million inscription. But the question is like, how many sub 1 million inscriptions? And I really do think this is coming. When you sort the sub 1 million inscriptions by age of SAT, are you going to be in the top 100 oldest? These are the interesting meta games that are being played. And I definitely think it's more just the market maturing. I think this is like, as a collector, this is like going to happen no matter what kind of. And it's just because the market cap's getting bigger, because people are wrapping their heads around what an ordinal is, they have time to then go in and start to basically make a more efficient market and analyze where they think value is. And yeah, I mean, this guy Nolish is one of the miners, and he's basically just taking these really old sats that he finds, and then he's inscribing an image of like a coin of like representation of a sat on top of it that like says the sat number and the block and the date on it. And then he just like gifted me one. It seems like they may be planning to like do a collection of like 1,000 of them or something. I don't really know. I think they were literally just kind of doing it for fun at the start. So I don't know what's going to exactly happen there. But I do think a layer that people should be paying attention to, not necessarily just the SAT, okay? Because there's like billions of SATs, right, that are 5 days old. But there's very few artists that have their, they're really paying attention and really going the extra mile and doing something thoughtful and like inscribing on that SAT. So that's what I'd be paying attention to. That's like an interesting layer. And if I was a creator, I'd 100% be going and tracking down some stats and releasing like a 100-piece collection on 5-day-old stats, day 5 stats.
I'm telling you, man, the ordinal panning service is going to be a moneymaker for whoever fucking does this, man. I'm telling you. How, as Leo was talking, I was like, dude, how cool would it be if somebody managed to get every sat inside of one single Bitcoin, and then you made a collection out of that, right? You had 100 million sats in this one exact Bitcoin. That would be super cool.
It's all sorts of cool stuff. I mean, along with, you know, like what Casey talked about, right? The first sat in a block and all the kind of rarities, you know, first sat after the halving, all these sort of like things that you could do. And it's interesting that if a panning service has these kind of ready to go, that they can then, you know, coordinate with, like Leo says, an artist who's thinking of doing something more interesting. I mean, this is just, we're in the early days, right? This is like, we see this, and it's just, I think, almost a matter of time till people start doing it, doing it thoughtfully. Like you said, with like an artist doing whatever, X copy comes in and he's, you know, worked with a miner to grab, you know, 10 really interesting sats that kind of tell a story. And then he does something around that. I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I agree. Adam, what are your thoughts on this this Yuga Labs ordinal project? I know we talked about it a little bit.
I just can't wait for the derivatives on Ethereum or on, you know, it's like, when are we going to get the derivatives, you know? I don't know. It's super interesting. I know we're interested from a matter of the standpoint of see how they're going to create kind of a marketplace around them. Is it going to be native on Bitcoin? And if so, they've cut off all their ETH people. So, you know, who's going to be the first one to throw one in an Emblem vault and list it on OpenSea? We're very obviously from Emblem Vault's perspective, we're very interested in that. I know Ordinals.market is looking to, like, you know, encourage someone to list on their site to try and get those eyeballs and stuff. And yeah, from our perspective, it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, it's a stamp of approval. Not that you need Yuga's approval, but just that they're doing their first, you know, project off of Ethereum makes it, you know, just adds a layer of interest, and, you know, brings the entire ETH NFT market. It brings the eyeballs onto Ordinals. I think is massive just for adoption.
Yeah, I saw actually people were like, I don't know if they were front running Yuga or something. I know Leo talked about this, that image that they had posted originally about the announcement, somebody, a scammer, whoever it is, they took that image and then made like a bunch of derivatives of it and then inscribed it like before Yuga Labs even did or something like that, trying to sell them. I know Leo, is that what happened? People front run Yuga Labs on their own project on Bitcoin. Is that what happened?
Yeah. So like, yeah, I mean, basically to Adam's point, a derivative has already happened before it's been released. That might be a first.
Crazy.
Yeah, look, I mean, basically they showed this like one image of like this number 0 piece, and then they showed like the bottom third of like 4 others as like teasers, and that was maybe a mistake because basically, look, I'm leaning towards saying it's not a scam just because it's a pretty high effort to like go in, and they created a whole collection based on stuff they didn't see as well, and they did a really, like, I got tricked by it. I read and come in and say, hey, this isn't Yuga, and then here's the like slight differences and like the angle of the light on the bead that's at like 3 pixels this way. So yeah, look, somebody went in Blender and basically made this like absurdly similar collection and inscribed it. And my guess is it's going to be somebody basically just trying to do something like a derivative and go inscribe first. And, you know, maybe that has like some small ratio market cap to the official one. But yeah, I don't think it's a scammer just because like the effort it would take to like do that. But yeah, nobody knows who it is. So I honestly, I know as much as the next guy.
Oh, how funny, man, dude. Front running the own project itself. That's weird. Ethord, man, I want to hear what do you got for us this week, bro? You gave us a very warm intro, but I need to know the deets. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. I am going away from children's toys and chokables. It should be a little refreshing for everyone. But I'll start with the classic introduction. This is Hoarder's Corner, a weekly segment that explores the world of physical collecting, digging into its history and exploring which characteristics drive value to draw parallels with historic NFTs. And this week, we have vinyl records.
Give me the
So-
details, man. I got at my parents' house, man. My parents are much older than me. They're a huge vinyl record collector. Give me some Van Halen, some Van Halen vinyls, man. I know Leo is a big Van Halen fan too. So tell me what you got.
Yeah, I'm always interested to hear how everyone up here on the panel, feels towards these collectibles and vinyl records. It's a very kind of hit or miss. I don't think anyone hates them, but you either have a ton or you don't have one, kind of thing, right? So does anyone up here want to share? Does anyone have any? Or maybe, because I actually don't have any, but I would say if I were to buy one, I would absolutely buy Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon, and it just turned 50 years old, I think, this week.
Wow.
So congrats on that.
Wow.
It's amazing because I think in the Discord, you asked, well, what would you want to have if you had one? If you could pick one vinyl record, and I think my response was basically, I have no way to play it, so I wouldn't want it, right? It's like, it's so funny. It's like to change it, like you said, if you go to the lengths of having a record player and speakers and stuff like that, you probably have lots, right? It's so interesting how that works. And we posted well, maybe I was the only one who posted the first album you ever had, right? And mine was Stevie Wonder's Hotter Than July album. And I remember it, went to Sam Goody. You guys aren't going to know what this is. There's a record store back in the day called Sam Goody. And somebody had given me, actually it was a birthday party I attended, and they gave out, this was like a rich kid's birthday party. They gave out gift certificates at the birthday party for I don't even know what it was, $5 for Sam Goody. Oh my God, I have this physical, gift certificate, and went in there. I didn't no idea who to buy. I was 6 years old. And that was, I just like the picture of that album was attractive. I bought it. And of course now I love it. It's one of my favorite albums because you have that emotional tie to the music of playing that music and looking at Stevie Wonder on the cover and all this sort of stuff. And just to get to this collector mindset of how experiences around a collectible, emotional experiences around a collectible, just tie you to that collectible, which is kind of interesting. And I know we get that in the NFTs as well, right? We are greatly affected by kind of emotional ties to our NFTs, and it's very powerful.
Yeah, man. When I had my antique store, that was my first business. I had it in 2017 and 18. We got tons of vinyl collectors coming in, tons. We actually sold some and we picked them up, and those would sell like hotcakes. Actually, even an interesting part too, my dad still does all the storage wars and stuff like that. Apparently a lot of people are collecting DVDs now too. He sells DVDs. He sells DVDs like hotcakes, dude. Any type of DVD, people come to his yard. He does yard sales every week. They come and, dude, pick them up. I don't know why. I don't know who the fuck's watching DVDs anymore, but it's a collectible, bro.
Dude, DVDs, CDs, it doesn't matter, right? It's literally anything that you have a tie to emotionally gets it's powerful, man.
Drop a bomb on us, ETH.
Okay, yeah. So digging into the history here, this one I think everyone's gonna get a kick out of. I didn't know the history about this, but I love it, and we'll see how it relates in a sec. So for a long time, the earliest known recording of a human voice was thought to be an 1877 recording by phonograph inventor Thomas Edison, right? So basically over 100 years go by, and that is the definitive answer. This is the first. It was our OG Thomas Ed. Shout out, invented the phonograph. And then in March, great month, right? 2008, a bunch of audio historians rediscovered a 1857 French patent for a recording called a phonautograph. Not a phonograph by Thomas Edison, but a phonautograph. And then a bunch of audio archaeologists started digging around for pre-1877 recordings in France. And eventually someone uncovered and restored an 1860 recording of a woman singing Clair de Lune, which is now considered
on a clay tablet. What the hell was it recorded on, bro?
Yeah, and what's crazy too, so the phonograph, the reason why I didn't take off as much as the phonograph is it could record, but it couldn't play. The phonograph.
Wait, how do you hear it if it doesn't play? Or you had to use like a separate machine to like play it or something like that.
Yeah, which is now long lost. So when they did this scramble to try to find an old recording, then they found something, and then they had to spend a bunch of time and money trying to restore it and digitize it.
So cool.
Yeah.
So the phonograph is the name coin of collectibles in the real world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, though, it wasn't until 1948 Columbia Records introduced the first 12-inch vinyl, and it really changed from then, right? And then it became in everyone's homes, and it increased the length and all that, and that's where we get kind of the vinyl that we know today.
And I feel like vinyls are all like the predominant type of music, like rock music, right? Isn't that when vinyl blew up? Was like during the 70s and 80s when rock was kind of like at a peak?
Yep, no, that's exactly it. And when we get to the notable sales, you'll know why. Okay, so value, in fact, this ties to it, right? So what drives value in these? Early print numbers, we're pretty familiar with that. There was one sale that was, hundreds of thousands of dollars because it was the very first print of a really well-known, I think, Beatles album. It was a limited edition, and then, of course, popular artists, right? So basically, the entire list of notable sales is just the Beatles or Elvis, right? Like, that's it. If you really want a lot of money, it better be special, and it better be the Beatles album. Okay, so we'll drill down into the notable sales. I like this, right? I definitely wasn't going to do a Beanie Babies just yet. I wanted us to actually have something that translates into high value sales. We've done Pogs and Peg, or just like all sorts of stuff that the highest sales aren't that impressive. But with vinyls, we do get some pretty vast collections. So the first one I want to note is the Beatles Yesterday and Today. This one's cool because there was an original cover called the Butcher cover, and it depicted the band members in white butcher coats holding raw meat and decapitated baby dolls.
Oh my God.
This was a little too dark, as you could probably guess, for the A&Rs. So they canned it and they released it with a completely different album cover. But in 2016, the studio released this special sealed copy. I don't know if it was a one of one, but it sold for $125,000. And then going up from there, we got this is probably one of the craziest stories I didn't know about. But so Mark David Chapman, if anyone's familiar with him, he was the punk who shot and killed John Lennon, right? And I didn't know this, but he actually stalked his house in New York and waited there for John and Yoko to leave. And he had this double fantasy album, and he asked them to sign, and he did. And then he left. He didn't shoot him. They left. He stayed at his house. They came back hours later, and that is when he shot and murdered him. Mm-hmm. And this record that was signed was left at the scene. And then the police used it as evidence and even wrote on it. And then it has sold a couple of times for a lot of money, but most recently for $900,000, which is insane, right, for this signed copy. But this album came out literally weeks before he passed, and obviously he signed it. It was the last thing he signed, I'm sure. And then the last most expensive one I could find is, so the Wu-Tang Clan released Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, but that was a CD, that was not a vinyl, so I'm not counting that. Plus, I don't, the buyer don't necessarily approve of him, even though he has gotten.
Wait, we all know Wu-Tang Clan invented NFTs, right? Their idea basically built the NFT market.
Was that Martin Shkreli, the guy who bought that?
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
But okay, in a similar vein to Wu-Tang's One of One, Bob Dylan, one of my dad's favorite artists of all time, he made and released a One of One album, Blown in the Wind. He re-recorded it in 2022, and that sold for $1.77 million.
Wow. Can we vote that ETH quotes all of the top collectible sales in ETH, just so I can understand to a relative scale of what it is? Like 1.7 mil. What is that? That's like 1,000 ETH or something, right? 1,000 ETH, right? That's less than what's that, like a zombie punk? That's like the equivalent of like a zombie punk or something like that. That's how I denominate everything now.
Jake, somebody literally just bought the key that was in like a monkey's butthole for that.
I was literally going to bring that up just now because I do think that's pretty interesting what happened over the last week with that.
Yeah. Oh wow! Tell me about it. What do you
want
think?
to give some context to that, Leo?
I mean, look, I didn't play like Dookie Dash, so like I'm really honestly not the best person, but I can give the like very basic rundown. My understanding is like, and maybe I'm totally getting this wrong. I really didn't pay attention, but you played this game Dookie Dash, and this was a game that Yuga released, and basically like a ton of people got the sewer pass to play it. And then my understanding is if you win, so like there's a leaderboard, whoever gets the highest score, people were competing for a month. And then basically like this one, of course, it's not an NFT person, it's some like professional Twitch gamer comes in and just like obliterates everybody. And yeah, I mean, wins this. I think the prize is basically this, key that was in like the lore is that the key was like came out of the monkey's butt. This is my understanding. If I'm off, Adam, please correct me.
I think you're pretty much right. I'm not sure about the butt part, but definitely to play this game that Yuga, I mean, it's an interesting idea into, maybe this is a way to actually get people interested in Web3 games, right? Which you basically had to have some NFTs, and the more NFTs you had, or the right NFTs, gave you basically advantages within the game. So yeah, this professional gamer basically bought some of the higher end NFTs, which gave him the best opportunity to win this challenge. And basically in the top 50, I want to say he had 5 or 6 spots in the top 50. So he's a world-class gamer, right? He's like super good gamer. And he was able to win the top spot, which earned him this key. And he just turned around and sold it for 1,000 ETH. So it's literally I think it's the 3rd highest gaming prize ever, if you look at it as a gaming prize, including all the world championships of gaming and all this sort of stuff. So it's pretty significant. I don't think the gaming community, I asked my kid about it. He hadn't even heard about it. So I don't think it's reached into like the gaming community yet, as far as like, oh wow, crypto NFTs might be a way for us to like actually make money. But it is, it's kind of one of these moves that may move the needle a little bit in kind of Web3 gaming. Who knows? But certainly interesting from like just a potential opportunity for money making. If you're a world-class gamer, when Yuga does their next challenge, I'm sure there'll be a lot more people involved, because the reality is it was like him against a bunch of rookies. This is like, it's like Michael Jordan playing against a bunch of kindergartners. You know what I mean? And so yeah, he dominated.
It's interesting. I don't know if you guys follow Cyrus. He's like one of the big like NFT traders. This guy paid, I think he spent like tens or like close to like is somewhere in the 6 figures for people to basically play the game for him. And he ended up getting like, I think it was like 5 or 10 of the top like 50 scores, which, right, if that sets the mark at 1,000 ETH for the top, this guy's sitting on millions of dollars just to get people to like pretty much they're like gaming farming for him.
Yeah, game farming.
Game farming.
Yeah.
Does this just mean that it pumps our Saratobi bags? I guess. As the first, for those that don't know, Saratobi was the first like interoperable metaverse in gaming. I was actually doing my own research. Saratobi has a lot of interesting prospects to it. It is a small collection. When you look at it on NFT Relics, you see, I think it's like 9 tokens, but like 2 of them belong to like rare Pepes, and like 2 of them belong to Spells of Genesis. So it's quite interesting how that unfolded. Saratobi. Hopefully, once we get the Saratobi curated collection going, people will finally understand what the relevance is. I have no idea what the prices are on that, but the gaming NFTs. But I want to divert back to ETH. Was there anything else you wanted to add onto that at the end? I'm a big vinyl fan, and do you know how much Van Halen vinyls are going for, dude? That's like my favorite rock band. I gotta know.
0.002.
Well, that's the thing, man, right? It's like rarity is really, or scarcity within those is really hard, right? So I'm assuming like Van Halen, you just don't get any scarcity. While I'm sure like there's an Elvis, first copy of the first song he ever did, and there's only a couple hundred of them because they like sold them outside of like, you know, some studio in Memphis or something like that, right?
Dude, the low digits, man, always in it. When I was watching all of the ordinal sell and Leo's aping 2 Bitcoin into number 69 inscription and stuff, all I could think of is, man, I hope this trickles down to Mooncats at some point. Oh, that was my original thesis, man. Spent a ton of money on Mooncat number 6 and has not made it down to Mooncats yet. Maybe it's just like goes along with my with my Pepes thesis that eventually everyone will figure it out.
You can't depeg.
It will, Jake.
We
I
can't
think
depeg.
everyone knows how important, you know, Mooncats are to the history, and to this day, there still hasn't been that same sort of experience of you know, trying to mint something and not just click a button, whether it's a difficulty of the contract or just their website in general, if it was working. So it's like all these kind of things where we dig into the history and they're really interesting and they just add value and vibes, and it's just a matter of time.
But
yeah,
as Leo was saying, you can't depeg the stable coin, man.
Dude, it's I was talking at a phone call yesterday with Digivitar, who did the pixel artwork when I sold the Mooncat at Sotheby's. And we were just talking about how originally he actually flew down to Vegas and we met before we did that stuff. And we were talking about how when we first met 2 years ago and when he did that for me a year and a half ago, Mooncats were at 0.3 ETH. It's still the same price a year and a half later. Man, dude, it's just we just need more people into that ecosystem. But did you guys see, actually, speaking of Mooncats, first the accessory removal, I think, is underway. I feel like the community is very happy. It seems like Pause and Brooks are probably not happy at all because they have to put more work in. It's pretty much disabling everything that you see on the interface, but you can always go to mooncat.community and view your on-chain accessories. They're on-chain, so they exist. 5 Genesis Mooncats sold in one day.
Yeah, that was crazy, man.
See that, dude? I think it was because Mooncat2878 tweeted about it, is what it looked like, and a bunch of his collector friends just like put mass bids on it. It was 4 black ones and 1 white one. They all sold for like, they're all WETH bids. So they all sold around like 12 WETH or something like that. Mm-hmm. I hope that's the bottom, man. Like that was always the thing. 96 Genesis Mooncats. We just need that distribution to really sort itself out, because Mooncat's already really illiquid, at least the rare ones already. So I felt like because of all of those Axie Infinity people that went and claimed all the Genesis ones, which is what happened, they held like a large concentration of it, and it seems like they're finally like kind of getting out and it's becoming much more distributed. So
tell me I didn't know that. How did they end up with
so they were, when Mooncats were rediscovered, they were the ones that wrote the bots, which actually led to the vote of burning the other 144 ones or not releasing them. Gotcha. And so they ended up claiming, I think, like the majority of the Genesis ones off of the marketplace.
Gotcha.
And they'd held them for a long time. They were the ones that were behind the GMC 24, who, props to them, they actually let me in on that like round where we bought it out for like 20 ETH a piece or something like that. But the Axie Infinity people, that community, I don't know if you ever like interact with them. They're pretty freaking smart, dude. They're very ahead of the game, like, especially those who are in the Axie community in 2018, kind of understanding the whole play to earn kind of tokenomics. Leo's got his hand up. What's good?
So I just like, obviously the pegging, depegging joke was like, obviously there's like a funny joke there, but I do want people for like, because look, I get it. It's like, it is probably, including myself, it's frustrating that like an asset is literally glued to like 0.3 ETH for like 2 years or something, right? So I just wanted to like give the more serious kind of thing, which is, this is like kind of like, to me, Mooncats equals historical NFTs. If Mooncats are not valuable in 10 years, the entire thesis was wrong about basically all historical NFTs. So, you know, if we're believing the historical NFT thesis, then Mooncats are core to that. My thought here basically is like, when you go around the internet, are you still like signing into sites and plugging in credit cards and like having to verify your email? Or is everybody in the entire world just, you know, using a Chrome extension to basically just float their identity around to different sites and pay through MetaMask? We're not even like, we are so far from that happening, guys. Like, my point is, it's just like, you have, this literally, like, we joke about it, but I literally say, like, collect historical NFTs and hold for a decade. this is like the only thing I have like 100% almost in my head conviction about. I'm not promising 100% or something like that, but in my head, I delusionally believe it's 100%. So my point is, you know, this is just like a long-term kind of situation. And, you know, I do believe it's inevitable that we head to the future where, you know, the wallet example is just one example. There's many other kind of litmus tests you could have, but, you know, we have very low adoption globally for the, you know, 6 billion people on the internet, you know, using the internet in this way. And my belief is in like 10 years, 15 years, you know, 8 years, I don't know exactly when, but when we get to that point, that's when you can say, hey, Leonidas and Adam and Jake and Dogfather and ETH were right or they were wrong. And to be honest, like, you know, we joke about like people trade, people are looking to get a flip 6 months later, all that stuff. But like that is at its core the thesis we're talking about. So the peg stuff is just a joke, basically, amongst people who understand that the thesis really is that 10-year situation. So I just wanted to make that clear because literally we very rarely say that part of it and just kind of joke. But for people listening, like that is what we're waiting for, more or less.
Yeah,
no, it's true. I think Mooncats have the curse of just front running every trend ever. Like we even have the Mooncat 2017 NFTX pool, which no one has any idea about, which was actually the second, I believe, trait rarity NFT liquidity pool in history. The first one was like I think it was like a Beanie Punk one or something like that. And Alex Gosman, who runs NFTX, had said that it didn't work out really well. But the 2017 Mooncat pool has hundreds of transactions, right? So it kind of adds to that thesis that Mooncats were probably, I think, the first historical community to start valuing lower, I almost said lower inscription numbers, just lower numbers or early mints. So kind of set the stage. Just has not reflected in the price at all.
I mean, I had some chats with family members, not extended family members, I should say, this week. And, you know, they're asking me what I'm into, blah, blah, blah. Just a friendly reminder, because we get into such a cone of silence here amongst our friends on crypto Twitter and stuff. The vast majority of the world does not even know what blockchains are. They have zero clue what public blockchains are. And they think that Bitcoin is just money on the internet. They don't understand any of it. They have zero clue. And so we are at, as far as adoption goes of what we're into, like nobody knows. We're still in the nobody knows stage. So yeah, I think Mooncats, you're right. If Mooncats never moon, our thesis is wrong, but we got to give it time. There's a lot of work to be done in the middle here.
And you know, Mooncats actually moves with I think Adam got moved off stage. But
you just dropped me from
I don't know. But Mooncats actually moves in coordination with CryptoPunks, and CryptoPunks is actually, it's becoming a meme with CryptoPunks too, that they're pegged to, I think, like 60 ETH or something like that, 70 ETH. So I think they're both going to move together, and it's actually, I got that stat from DCL Blogger and post about it because he's also a big historical NFT collector. It's like Curio Cards, Mooncats, and CryptoPunks all move in coordination. If you go look at their chat or go look at like their price history, their volatility is always like within the same time period. So just something interesting, right? Historical NFTs, like as Kobe said, NFTs are just shitcoins with pictures. Historical NFTs are just shitcoins with timestamps. How funny is that? All Business ETH on the YouTube channel says just aped in on a Bitcoin punk I2. So people are loving it. Will Yuga Labs will they DMCA Bitcoin before the ones? Right, they're DMCAing like a derivative or something, or copy.
Bro, I have to tell this little sub story, and I won't mention the project or anything, but Jake and I were in a call with somebody who's like, we are the official blah, blah, blah collection. And let's just say it's a punk derivative, whatever. We're the official blah, blah, blah collection. I was like, bro, really? You're a derivative of a derivative of a derivative. How are you official anything, bro? What are you talking about? And that was kind of funny because you know, everybody's pumping their own bags, but it was kind of a hilarious moment in the middle of this stuff.
And there's a lot of cool ideas floating around. There's also a lot of horrible ones. And Adam and I are here for all of it. We're here to help people. What's interesting is a lot of people have ideas of something that they want to do with ordinals. We're getting hit up by like large collections, large artists, and talking about them. And then once you start actually like diving into the conversation of like what they want to do, they just like don't even know. So a lot of people, they just want to be handheld into the ordinals ecosystem. It's kind of like this idea. That's kind of how the private service spun up, was just people hitting us up with this idea. Although Megapont, which is that 10K ordinal collection that we're vaulting, they came to us with everything literally out on the table. I was like, wow, you guys put a lot of thought into this.
They're organized.
And they sold out pretty quick. So that'll be interesting to see. I also want to talk for a second and pump my own bags. I'm doing my own NFT project. I don't know if anyone saw. Adam was giving me some advice on on Discord. I told my community that I'd talk about it briefly. Basically, I'm turning my podcast into an on-chain guest list. What does that actually mean? It's very ambiguous. I was telling this. I was at a wedding last night. And I was talking to some friends, and just like Adam was saying, you try to tell people what you're doing, and they have no fucking idea what it is. I had thought about this idea for a very long time, for years actually, of like trying to bring crypto to Las Vegas. And my last business, Native Research, I had networked with like the gaming control board in Vegas and politician and the mayor and casinos and all this stuff. And corporations are so far behind on crypto. They had told me that they saw NFTs as a marketing expense more than a profitable business. And I was like, you guys are literally missing the entire business model of this. So now my goal with this, it's called Jake Allen's guest list, is to bring Vegas culture to Vegas, or to the blockchain. It's kind of the idea. There's a huge gap between those who live just purely on the internet and those who are in the real world, and that intersection of like, whether it's tokenizing real world assets or real world events and different things like that. That's what I'm going to explore. Actually, what my ultimate goal, if it's like the long, like 5-year plan, is to build a hospitality NFT company. And what that actually means is has never been explored. So with the project, that's kind of what I'm doing, is I'm taking the relationships of different people that I've had on the podcast. For example, like Adam and Leo's been on the podcast, and a few different people. I'm going to issue NFTs against it as like a podcast cover, essentially. And then you do limited open editions, and then tokenizing that relationship to do things like explore different things like token gated live streams and memberships and all these different things. So cool, going to be exploring that. Whether it's successful or not, who really knows? But
odds are no, but that doesn't mean don't try, bro. Right? This is what we do, man. I mean, that's what we're partially, to a large degree, celebrating in the historical NFT community, right? Is trials and failures, and understanding that those failures help build, and the successes hopefully are super successful. Wish you the best. Good luck, bro.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for the optimistic input, Adam. We really appreciate you being so optimistic.
But actually, as it can relate to historical NFTs, I'm not actually the first person to explore this. Adam Levine tried to explore this idea in 2014 with Doge Party and a counterparty with like Let's Talk Bitcoin. And I actually had a private call with Skrilla too, and he tried to do the same idea in 2018 with his podcast. I think it was called like Art on Blockchain or something like that. Mm-hmm. So people have tried to go down this idea of like podcasting NFTs or tokenizing your media in some sort. And so, yeah, going to explore that and see if it's successful. I have my first season. It's going to be seven people. I'm running the theme of Vegas, so everything's going to be in like 7 and 21 kind of like themes.
Nice.
And from there, it'll be fun, right? We'll probably have like Leonidas and Adam and different people do these different things and kind of explore it. But I have to give credit to Adam Levine, because he was originally, when I was doing my research, of looking at like the things that he explored with Let's Talk Bitcoin and with Tatiana with music NFTs and stuff, is kind of like laid the foundation to say like, there's something here because when you research historical NFTs, and I talked about this with like my investment with fake memes, is like with historical NFTs, you see themes pop up like once or twice. And usually around the 3rd or 4th time when that theme pops up on the right blockchain is generally when you find success, right? With like identity protocols, right? Goes from Namecoin to Bitcoin, and then the winning one is Ethereum. and you see it with like art and all these different themes. And so seeing that happen multiple times, I was like, there's something here, but gonna explore it, right? Or brutally fail. But
Well,
if we fail, then it'll become a historical NFT.
Well, we're still, I mean, look, this is all super early days. We're moving into this idea of like creator economy, and we haven't figured it out yet. Like the best use case of creator economy is YouTube. But are there going to be things built that maybe work better than YouTube? Like it's only a question of when, how long it takes. And so this idea of creators being able to get value from their media creations, we're very much still figuring this out, right? What is it? Is it a Substack? Is it a Patreon? Is it a token? You know? So yeah, man, this is awesome, man. I mean, one of my first, I did build, thank God I never sold any of them because I probably didn't fail. But one of my, this is like, and probably you guys haven't even heard this before, but when I first started doing NFTs, like January, February of 21, like experimenting, like building, what am I doing? How am I going to get into this? I was like, oh, I'll do a YouTube show. And I think I had a YouTube show at that time or whatever. And I was like, let me create NFTs, and those NFTs will earn the revenue off of the YouTube show. Like that was an idea. And those NFTs are still sitting in my wallet. I got hit up a couple of times. People are like, can I buy some of those? I'm like, no, bro, no. Because Adam doesn't want to go to jail today. But it was like, it's literally a security. Like I was like, let me do a security where everybody earns off of, because it's, think about it. And I wish the SEC was more liberal with this, because the reality is if I have a YouTube show and I can tokenize through NFTs a very clear revenue stream, which is the revenue you earn on YouTube, and those can be passed to the holders. It's like, that's unfortunately a security, but it also is a really interesting way to create a community, because it would be really, really interesting. But if somebody figures out how to do that and not go to jail, please hit me up, because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna call on you, Dogfather. I'll call you here in a second. I don't know, Adam. Do you know who Adam Curry is by chance?
Of course, yeah.
So Adam Curry actually is profiting through the Lightning Network. I don't know if you know this. There's it's like kind of like a tip, kind of like own your community thing, but he uses the Lightning Network through some sort of app where basically his community pays him like per view or something like that. And so Adam Curry is actually like he's known as the Podfather. He had the first podcast, I think, in like 2004 or something. So he's actually dabbling in like the Bitcoin Lightning system, and it seems pretty profitable. I mean, he's a pretty smart guy. So I was curious if you knew who he was. And
yeah, of course, Adam. He's one of the OGs, like founders of podcasting, basically. And yeah, he's trying to push the envelope by doing like, basically it's like Patreon kind of thing but on Bitcoin through podcasts and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it could work, but you know, people aren't really using Lightning, and you know, all those sort of models are really tough right now. I mean, ideas of microtransactions and stuff are still great ideas, but I've never seen a great implementation that people really get behind, you know, so yeah. Still early days.
Yeah, we're so far away. Dogfather, you've been waiting patiently, brother. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, just getting back to Adam, talking about, you know, what the SEC thinks about certain tokens. I mean, that depends where you're living and where your business is located, right? If you're not in the US and you don't have anything like business-wise, you know, going on with the US, I mean, if you're somewhere in El Salvador, Dubai, or I don't know how that's working out in Costa Rica, maybe you have a whole kind of like business model, you know, freedom if you're located outside of the US. Or
if I wasn't a US citizen, that would be 100% true. Unfortunately, being a US citizen, it doesn't matter. It travels with you. So yeah, I've looked into that. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I'd have to give up US citizenship. Yeah.
Imagine a family member is not U.S. citizen, but I think you certainly thought about that.
Yeah,
but I know the arm of the U.S. institutions they reach far.
Yes, universal. They reach around the universe. I believe they never let you get away, man.
Yeah, I gotta love it, man, dude. Speaking of like just like tokenized media, Matt Medved, who's a big historical NFT enthusiast, NFT Now is doing their own tokenized media project. I'm curious to really see like where this goes. When you look at like different tokenized media, you have like Nifty Gateway, or not, was it Nifty Portal has like their own token. You have Rug Radio, right? We talked about how Adam Levine kind of set that trend in 2014, or at least was the first to kind of move into that frontier. I'm really curious to see like what Medved does with NFT Now. I had tweeted last year, I said, if anyone was ever going to figure out tokenized media, it's probably going to be NFT Now with like the connections that they have and stuff.
We had talked, sorry to cut you off. We had talked on the Ordinals show. I think his name's Patrick Stanley. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leo, but he basically created a standard to try and not try, but a standard that's kind of for Ordinals, where you can basically mint media onto Ordinals and create a standard so it's basically trackable, so you can easily like look up the information and stuff, and basically use Ordinals as a medium for storing media, I guess you'd say. Yeah, I don't know if Leo, if you had more insight or know more about it than I do.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just contextualize this a little bit. You know, Casey created the Ordinals protocol, which just allows you to upload literally any file. Okay, so people have just been uploading straight up JPEGs, straight up words, random stuff. And what we're starting to see now is these sort of like standards are emerging where people are inscribing JSON, which means that you're basically structuring the data more like an ERC-721 token would. So, for example, the .sats domain names, people are just like saying the protocol is .sats. You know, it's basically, for anybody who's a programmer, it's essentially just like an object with fields and with like key value pairs. And it's like the sat name is, you know, Jake.sats and, you know, maybe one other thing, right? So people are inscribing these JSON files. And of course, like to the end user, that's not how, you never see like the JSON file really. You're just like in a client, in a user interface, plugging in, I want to buy this, you know, Jake.sat, and you just click inscribe, and then all that happens for you. And then it's a similar thing here, but for news. So it's like domains is a kind of prototype object that would make sense to have, you know, some kind of structure for that object. And then similarly, like Patrick's basically creating this kind of open source protocol to inscribe news. And by news, I think it's really just like, if you want to write something onto Ordinals, onto Bitcoin, and inscribe it there forever, historically, you just uploaded a .txt file and just threw up some, you know, hello world kind of information. But he's structuring that in such a way that you can organize this information and query it from clients and know that it's part of, you know, this kind of like, the reason you wanted to inscribe it was to put news and put information on there. And that basically gives signal in a bunch of noise of these like 250,000 inscriptions that it's like, you don't know what it is. So it's interesting. We're going to see a lot more of these kind of standards emerge, in my opinion. And like, some of them will, you know, take off, some of them won't, but I'm certainly like definitely interested in what, you know, what's going to happen here, because this is ultimately how you make Ordinals useful. It can't just be, you know, files. Like, we have to make sense of this data. We have to create signal in the noise somehow.
Yeah, I was it kind of, when he was talking about it, it gave me kind of a vibe of like, oh, I could almost create like a Substack, but just for me, right? Like where I'm posting, you know, articles or Medium articles or something like that, and it's kind of this immutable data or, you know, text or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
that's the way I was looking at it, because it's not really necessarily news when anybody could put anything from a text perspective. Yeah,
you're exactly right. The way to think about Ordinals, and specifically the inscription part, which is like the kind of more interesting part to me, the Ordinal is the ownership, but the inscription is literally just basically turning Bitcoin into a giant database. And basically every product and service we use leverages a database for like all the content that gets served. So any form of content, any product, you could theoretically use Bitcoin as the backend database and build that product. Now, I'm not saying it's scalable. There's only certain use cases that would make sense for. For example, I'll pay $5 to, you know, inscribe my Medium post or Substack post. But yeah, I mean, it'll make sense for certain use cases where, hey, like I want the database to be the most immutable database on earth. So yeah, that's kind of the general idea here, and people are starting to realize that and build on top of the inscription aspect rather than the we're going to kind of flip and trade crypto art aspect.
It's interesting, like I don't know if is it mirror.xyz or whatever, where you can like buy the post or you know, is that the one, Jake?
It is
This
Mirror,
this is almost better because it's like one of one, right? Where I'm buying the only one. That would be interesting too. Interesting experiment to run there.
Yeah, Mirror is quite interesting. I started dabbling. That was like kind of the first like real like dabbling of like creating tokens and stuff. But this idea of like being a collector of somebody's like thought pieces or essays is
Very cool idea.
Yeah, it's an intricate method of relating to somebody, but how you, as somebody who publishes like historical NFT essays, if somebody collects those, which there's people who just like, I do it for free. It's like, what do you turn that into is kind of the idea. Because the NFT, like writing NFTs is I would say it's collecting somebody's, it's like very intimate, right? When somebody's writing a blog post, it's generally either like information or it's something like very personal and how it like relates to them. So you're collecting like this very like personal tokenized item, which is much different than collecting like a PFP, which you're going to use, right? You're kind of like, if you're collecting somebody's essay, you're like basically saying like, I agree with this and I want to hold it because this relates to me. So how do you like take that collector token issuer relationship and then build on it? I don't know. Yeah, it's I haven't figured it out yet, but I've been kind of exploring it though.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I know we're coming up on an hour and a half, and it is Friday still, and I want everyone to go enjoy their Friday. Right? It's 5 o'clock somewhere right now in this morning. So right, I need more coffee too. So I want to thank everyone for coming in and hanging out. I'm excited to see what happens next. Geez, I need some sleep so that because of all the Emblem stuff that's happening in the background, dude, it's absolutely insane the amount of interest that the Emblem Vault's getting, but also just like the confusion as well, which is warranted, and we're working out different kinks. Next Monday, Shannon, I don't think I told Leo yet. Shannon is down for Monday. So Monday at what is it, 6:30 Eastern time.
Yep.
We're doing the NFT Now history show with Emblem Vault, and Shannon will be there. So I know there's a bunch of like Emblem people listening. Shannon will be on that Monday show at 6:30 Eastern time, and we're gonna talk about Emblem Vault, everything about it, the history. I feel like every time Shannon talks, I learn something new about his history. Guys, this super OG. So I'm very excited for that. Adam, you got any last words before we close this out?
Oh man, what a time to be alive. It's so amazing. Such a blessing, and so fortunate to be involved with awesome people like you, Jake. And yeah, I appreciate everybody for putting up with us for the last couple of weeks, because it has been a bit bumpy, but new stuff is hard. And I think it's super exciting. Who could have seen this Ordinals thing coming? But you know, building into the future is what we're all about, and it's amazing, and so lucky to be here and be alive at this time. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've learned so much over the last 4 months working at Emblem and understanding how the back end of crypto works. I have a whole new perspective in the crypto industry as somebody who now works kind of like behind the scenes and with the relationships and how people think about things. It is a whole different universe, man. It is, dude, it is wild, the kind of things that people think about, and like the actual like interconnectedness. You see on Twitter, a lot of people are like publicly fighting. On the back end with like, maybe it's because it's like business relationships, it's very uplifting and very positive. And the way that people think about problem solving in crypto, because everyone comes from different backgrounds, that's kind of like what I find fun. It's almost like intellectual tooling where everyone's like trying to plug in their own kind of like smart Legos to kind of figure out these kind of projects. But yeah, very exciting future ahead for Emblem Vault. Leo, you got any last words before we get out of here?
No, TGIF. Have a great weekend, everybody. You know, like same echo as last week. Like let's try to get some rest and like take a day off if you can. I'll probably take most of tomorrow off. So I don't know. Yeah, get some rest, guys, and appreciate everyone coming.
Yeah, kidding. ETH Horde, any last words? Give us some insight for ETH Hoarder's Corner next week.
Beanie Baby.
Oh, no, we're going Beanie Babies. All right.
No.
Yes, man.
But I do want to say, please, I can't wait. Release the frogs.
Curated is coming, right? That's like the winter is coming. It'll happen eventually. Curate's coming, guys. Get some rest, as Leo said, and we'll see you guys next week. See ya.
Thanks, guys.